Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Live with CDP podcast on this Friday, March the 11th, 2022. Today is season 3, episode 15th. My 126th episode in 2 years tonight, and I'm looking forward to my guest. This is his second time coming on. His name is Edward Ford. He's a news producer with Fox 61 in Hartford, Connecticut, and he's a huge sports fan and loves his Washington Capitals and Washington Commanders, and I believe the Washington Nationals too, and the Wizards. So I'm going to talk to Edward about his Washington sports teams and maybe some NFL news and Major League Baseball news as well. So just bear with me, guys, and I'll bring on Edward in just one moment. I'm just going to put him on right here, and we're going to talk some sports tonight. Hey, Edward, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good. I appreciate you coming on tonight.
You're welcome. No problem. Anytime, man.
Lots of sports news going on right now.
Yeah, a whole lot. Baseball, NFL, trades are already happening. Signings are already happening in baseball. Hockey, trade deadline is approaching where teams got to make deals. And basketball playoffs, of course, along with NHL playoffs is approaching. It's fast approaching because March will be over before you know it.
And then we have March Madness going on too.
Yep. You're right. Selection Saturday is tomorrow, I believe, actually. So,
wow. So, who's your pick for March Madness? Who do you think is going to come out and win the tournament?
To be honest with you, I have to look at the bracket. I haven't been paying attention too much to it this year. I know Duke is up there in the rankings. I think they're in like top 4, top 5, if I'm not mistaken. But I have to honestly look at the bracket and kind of look at teams, see their record and see where they've been all year. Because as far as I'm concerned, the Connecticut, UConn out here, the men aren't ranked that high, but you never know what could happen depending on your matchups. And I think that's the key thing is it has to be matchups. That's why we call it March Madness. That's why it has the word madness because anything can happen. I mean, we all remember when the Baltimore UMBC beat, what was it? I think it was VCU or somebody, like a very high-ranked team. And I think they even made it past the 64th, like with the 64 teams in and stuff. So you just never know what can happen in March Madness. That's the thing.
Definitely. I'm going to be honest. I am a basketball fan and I'm a Michigan Wolverines fan, but I'm kind of a casual college basketball fan until March Madness strikes. So I'll probably need your expertise a little more on what's going on with the tournament because I just kind of really start getting into it in March instead of earlier in the season, which I should be.
Right. Yeah, like up here at Fox 61, because UConn is actually one of our sponsors, we pay very heavily closely, attention. We pay close attention to them. Because once they're in the tournament, which we know they will be, we just don't know their seeding right now. Every day that there's a game, it's on the news. Like last night, we had a quick 15-second VO of them just winning, but then a soundbite of the coach explaining what really helped them get past that game. So people will see a lot more coverage on that, probably even a lot more posts of me editing parts of the UConn highlights and putting them on Twitter and Facebook. So
okay,
just be on the lookout for that.
Okay, hey, thoughts on this? What's your thoughts on Juwan Howard and his 5-game suspension for the incident with Wisconsin? I just wanted to get your 2 cents on that.
So when you're a head coach, I understand that you're standing up for players, you're standing up for the program, you're standing up for everything that team means to you, but you're a leader. And you cannot have that type of incident happen. When you do such a thing like that, it spells all the way down to what are you showing your players? What are you showing the program that you represent? And I think that goes to anybody who works for any company in America. That when you do things, and I don't think it's just America, it could be anywhere, to be honest with you. When you make that mistake, it can be very, very heavy when it comes to the punishment. You can either get suspended or you usually also get fired, depending on the outcome, depending on the incident, whether it's on tape or it's brought to somebody's attention through email. And when investigations are usually done, usually in sports, it comes down with the suspension first. They don't usually fire somebody unless like that fight typically injured somebody to the point where that person comes back and sues the program. And we're talking about college. I'm not trying to downplay college as not some, because it's not a pro sport, it's a collegiate sport, but still at the same time, you have to treat it like a pro sport. Because if this coach goes to the pros, this is on his record. And how did the NCAA handle this? Well, if they didn't suspend him and only fined him, then the NBA is kind of like, why didn't you guys suspend him? So I think that it was the right call. I think that it was the right decision. You have to set a precedent moving forward that these type of incidents cannot happen. But correct me if I'm wrong, I think both sides or both coaches kind of went at it. It was just that one side had more of a temperament that blew over.
Okay. I was shocked. I thought maybe they would have done the shock factor and fire him, but I think he's a very good head coach. He screwed up. He made a mistake, and hopefully he learns from it in the future.
Right. Yep. And I think that's what they're looking at it as, is that, we have to remember that they go back and they look at history of a coach or history of a player as well. And if somebody doesn't have a history, they typically do not take the first route of firing. They typically take the first route of either big time fines or big time suspensions, and that's typically what usually happens. So, because it was his first, I was not shocked that it resulted in a suspension, but I think it is sending a message to him and others in the league. One, for others in the league, that if you do this, you will be suspended, and two, for him, if you do this again, you will get fired. So I think that it definitely sets a precedent in the league.
I was gonna say, can you imagine Bobby Knight coaching in this era?
Oh my
Oh
gosh,
my God. I was
it'd be
gonna say.
bad.
Oh, definitely. Hey, I did this for you tonight. In the background, I put in the Washington Capitals arena for you.
Okay, I see
I know. I
that.
know you. I know how big of a Capitals fan are. So I'm gonna start. I figure we'll start with the Washington Football Club, if that's okay today.
Okay.
Thoughts on the Washington Commanders' new name? I know that's been about a month now or longer, but I just wanted to get your 2 cents on the name change and the new logo.
So of course, with me working in media, we have these accesses to certain things and certain stories and certain reporters saying, here's why this is the name. I honestly knew the name before the name came out, only because one, when you hear reports so much on the names that were eliminated, like so many people focused and honed in on, oh my gosh, they're only doing this to shock us, to make us think this is the name, and then they're going to go with Washington Red Bulls. But Washington Commanders was the only name that kept being brought up. It had a lot to do with military, had a lot to do with DC, the 3 stars. People thought it was going to be the Generals because of the military as well. But I was like, there's just no way. And, it's like, at the end of the day, when I saw the story from WUSA 9 News in DC, the chopper flew over FedEx Field. They did a bad job of even covering up the new name on the wall at the field, inside of FedEx Field, and that just cemented to me the night before that it's definitely the Commanders from what I've been getting. I told people on Twitter, I know the new name. I know it's the Commanders. They was like, what's your sources? I don't need sources. When you in media, you do enough research to figure things out yourself. You don't always need sources. That's what one thing that, if I could tell people to learn, is to research for yourself instead of asking questions all the time. It's okay to ask questions, but sometimes do your own research before you develop questions. I did enough research where it was so honed in on Commanders that there was no other name, and they eliminated the names that it was not going to be. And everybody wanted it to be Red Wolf so much that they kept that in their mind too much. that you have to move on from that. So I don't have a problem with the new name. I think when I first heard it, was like, but then like 2 minutes later, I'm like, okay, it's the Commanders. And then you still had thousands of people complaining about the name, and now you don't hear them complaining about it anymore. They've moved on. It's grown on them. That's the new name. You're going to have to live with it. Now people are trying to figure everything else out with the team. So I'm fine with it. I have no problem with it.
Okay. And I was going to say, and if the team starts winning again and getting in the playoffs and championships, that would even help more too. One thing I do like a word that they did do is they kept the colors. They didn't change the team colors.
Yeah, actually, I think the team colors even look a little bit better. I think like the white uniform I like. I even like the black uniform. I think the black uniform really sets it over the top because everything else in the stadium is burgundy. It's it's got like the gold, the white. I think that black really helps like give it a different look. And a lot of times, sometimes we play on the road and we throw on a red jersey, and then the other team throws on something that looks very similar, right? Well, now we can throw on the black jerseys if we want to. If the other team like Dallas is wearing white, or if you go to Philly and they're wearing white, or you go to New York and they're wearing white, that black stands out now. It's something different.
Okay, definitely. I've got one viewer, Bob Moore. He just wanted to say, "Hey, mention the UConn Huskies men's hockey game, 4:30 tomorrow against Boston U against from TD Garden in Boston. Final playoff game streamline on the UConn website." That's one of my friends, and he used to be one of my supervisors too. So he's from the Boston area as well.
Okay, yeah, they definitely. I think they won yesterday too. So we actually had that this morning as well.
Definitely. Okay, and let's see. We'll get some more other questions for you. This next one I got to ask you: where do you feel the Commanders need to improve in 2022 from the NFL draft, free agency, and I've got to talk about this as well. Thoughts on former Eagle and Colts quarterback Carson Wentz and the trade with the Colts? Did they pay too much? Or are you happy with what they gave up in compensation to Indianapolis?
So I'll answer the first one, which is where does Washington need to improve in 2022? Honestly, I think they have enough pieces on defense. They can always find in free agency or a third round pick, or I'm sorry, a second round pick because we don't have a third round pick. We can find in the second round a cornerback. This year's draft, excuse me, is very heavy on defense and offense. And I'll say, like, for example, you can go wide receiver, okay, in the first round with the 11th pick, which honestly I would pull the trigger on the wide receiver. There's so many quarterbacks that's going to be taken in the first 10 to 15 picks. There's so many offensive linemen that's going to be taken in the first 5 picks or first 10 picks. They're going to have a top 3 wide receiver fall to them. Because if you think about it, the only team I know that needs a receiver would be Jacksonville, unless they go defense. You have the Falcons, you have the Falcons, the Seahawks, you have the Giants who can shock when you take a quarterback. Excuse me. And then you have who else? Oh, Carolina ahead of us. So you got those 3 to 4 teams that may take a quarterback. You got a team that may take a defensive lineman or even a wide receiver themselves or an offensive lineman. So if you look at the first 6 picks, Washington has opportunity to pick up a wide receiver. Opportunity. I mean, there's going to be five wide receivers that go in the first, in my opinion. I think 3 of them is going to fall to Washington. They can find a receiver to complement Terry McLaurin because you cannot guarantee that Curtis Samuels is going to come back, come back healthy. Now, if he does, that's fine to have him as your third wide receiver. Then you have your Deebo Samuel you can use out of the backfield. Now you got a complement of receivers because we all know Carson Wentz needs receivers. So if you give Carson Wentz receivers, he knows he's got Terry McLaurin. That's already his number one for now. If you get him a compliment in the first round, now he's got 2. Then if you can find him a tight end, now he's got 3. You give Carson Wentz three weapons. You saw what he did in Philly in I think it was 2017? Going to the 2010 playoff year. You saw what he did. Yeah. He was on fire. If Carson Wentz has receivers and he has legit receivers, he can turn into that same quarterback. I think the problem that happened with Carson Wentz, and now I'm going to hit on Carson Wentz, is that when he was in Philly, he had that injury and he came back, I think it was the following year. And correct me if I'm wrong, that's when the 16-15 season happened, where it was like 16 touchdowns, 15 picks or whatever. I think what people are forgetting is he had an ACL tear. And when he came back,
it takes
it takes a long time to improve. And then when that 16-15 season happened, Doug Peterson took, I think it was Jalen Hurts as the quarterback that next year. And it's like, I think, in my opinion, it didn't give Carson Wentz enough time to really come back. So everybody says, if you can't compete with a rookie quarterback and take him under your wing yourself, people have their opinions. I think they did not give Carson Wentz enough time to really rejuvenate himself because, sure, that third season, they still let him play. But by then, you had already drafted a quarterback saying, we don't know about you because you had a 16-15 season. We know you came off with an ACL tear. I'm not saying that Carson Wentz is going to come in and win his 15 games because if that happens, he's going to blow the roof off of a lot of fans' heads that didn't like him, okay? But at the same time, he is an upgrade over Taylor Heinicke. I'm sorry. Carson Wentz still has an arm. He can still throw the football. Does he make boneheaded mistakes? Yeah, sure he does. All quarterbacks make boneheaded mistakes throughout the season. Tom Brady made boneheaded mistakes against Washington. Okay, it had one of the worst games probably of his season that time against Washington. They all make mistakes. But to call him a travesty coming to Washington when all he had was 7 picks last year, you got to be kidding me. I mean, it's an upgrade over Taylor Heinicke. Taylor Heinicke doesn't even have that much of an arm to throw the football 50 yards. So when he does, it winds up being a pick. When Carson Wentz, he can bomb that football 60, 70 yards down the field and wow the heck out of you. But yes, he will miss at times the short and intermediate routes and go, this is what we don't like about Carson Wentz. So again, I'm going to hold my reservation on him until the season starts. I want to see 8 games, 10 games out of him. Yes. I think that if Carson Wentz was here last year, that we're not 7-10. I think there's a chance that we beat, the Eagles in one of those games. I think that there's a chance that, we beat Dallas maybe in that one game that was close at the end. Because you're talking about having a competent quarterback. So maybe a 9-8 team or a 10-7, and we're in the playoffs. And something else I wanted to mention. We have one of the easiest schedules this year. Okay, let's not forget when Carson Wentz had his best season in Philly, you guys had the easiest schedule that year. So having an easy schedule may make it make it easy on Carson Wentz's first year here. Now, don't get me wrong. An easy schedule and us going 11 and what? You can go 11 and I think 6 now. Going 11 and 6, okay, or even 12 and 5 if that was to happen. Will make people say, well, now you're going to have a harder schedule, so let's see how he is against the harder schedule. Well, I think you have to reserve your spots again and say, well, now you got another draft coming up. So if he is your guy moving forward and you go 11 and 6 or 12 and 5, at the same time, now you just go into the draft and you get more weapons. Now you look for your tight end. Now you look for another receiver.
My concern with Wentz is in Philadelphia, this. It's hard to play quarterback there. The fans and myself, we run quarterbacks out of there. And it was time for him to leave, even if it wasn't all his fault. But Frank Wright brought him to Indianapolis. And the scary part is Frank Wright really liked Wentz. And within a year, he's now like, I don't want him anymore. And I'm like, that's what worried me when he comes to Washington is how fast the Colts gave up on him and Frank Wright, who is one of his biggest supporters. So, but I do agree with you, Edward. You got to give him at least 8 to 10 games and see how he does. And if they can give him a good offensive line and protect him and have a good running game and good receivers, he can be a good quarterback in the NFL. I don't think he'll be an elite quarterback, but I do think he is an upgrade over Taylor Heinicke, like you said.
Well, I will say this to piggyback off what you said about Frank Wright not wanting him. From reports that I heard, the owner is the reason he's gone. The owner wanted Carson Wentz to be vaccinated, and I don't think Carson Wentz, either he isn't vaccinated or he is vaccinated now, but wasn't at some point. And there was reports that the owner was begging him to get vaccinated, and it wasn't a requirement. And from my understanding, it boiled over with the owner. And the owner wanted him gone out at that point. Okay. So I don't fully think it is even the head coach. I think if the head coach had another opportunity to surround him with more weapons, I think he'd still be in Indianapolis. The problem is the owner there
He's
tends to step in and make decisions sometimes. And he kind of reminds me of freaking Dan Snyder at times, right? You
or
say you're
Jerry
going to take a
Jones.
back step, or Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't even get me started on Jerry Jones because now he's got an allegation with him. And it's kind of like, okay, so like with Jerry Jones and Dan Snyder, they're in the same boat. But it's like you got to sometimes I guess, and I'm not saying you was like the social media aspect. So at times we gotta have the research aspect really has to kick in. And when I saw that Chad Ryan posted what the owner was saying, I think it was on a show, or on a radio show, a TV news show, or something like that, or he just posted it, that him and Carson Wentz didn't agree in places. I'm like, okay, this isn't the head coach then, because quite frankly, Carson Wentz did have weapons in Indianapolis. However, I think sometimes people put so much pressure on the quarterback and the offense that they don't forget that that defense was okay, but they had their flaws at times.
Absolutely.
You know, you can go 9-8, but look like a 12-5 team. But if your defense played crappy in 3 games, there's your other 3 wins that you could have had. You know what I'm saying? Like, they beat the Arizona Cardinals, didn't they? So they beat an elite team right there. Yeah. You know, so people have to reserve that factor and just say Carson Wentz is the quarterback. He's our number 1 option right now. Even if they take a quarterback in the first round, he's still your number 1 option. Yep. That rookie quarterback is not playing unless Wentz gets hurt or Wentz does not do good in the first 8 games. And again, with that easy schedule, I hardly doubt that's going to happen.
So what's going to happen with Taylor Heinicke and Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Ryan Fitzpatrick was on a 1-year deal anyway, so he's gone.
Gone, okay.
Yeah, he was on a 1-year prover deal, which I don't think they would have kept him anyway, because they would have had better options in trade and you know, with trade deadlines and stuff, or just trades happening right now. So they would have had options there or in free agency. So Ryan Fitzpatrick would have been gone. Taylor Heinicke he's a good backup. Okay, so like if we go 12 games in and Carson Wentz has you at 8-2 or 7-3, and he injures, like, for example, a hamstring or something. I hate to say that because a hamstring can take 3 weeks, 4 weeks to rehab. Taylor Heinicke can win you 2 more games in between there. Taylor Heinicke is that type of quarterback that will wow you and upset you. He's kind of like a poor Carson Wentz, okay, where he's going to make more of those mistakes in a game, and he's going to look terrible in games. Carson Wentz just makes a mistake or 2, but also can still win you the game. Taylor Heinicke will make a mistake or 2 and completely lose the game, okay, in the first 2 quarters. And that's why I say he's just a poor man's Carson Wentz. He can win you. For example, they went on the road last year and beat Oakland. Oakland fans said, there's no way Washington's beating us. We're just better. And I got into a spike with those people on Twitter. I'm not going to lie. And when they lost, I posted, how about now? And they got upset. And I'm like, this is the thing I tried to tell you. Taylor Heinicke could win you games and lose you games, depending on how he shows up. And he showed up in that game. And that's what I mean by, if the schedule favors Washington with the easier schedule, Taylor Heinicke can step in and win you 2 games, maybe 3, shockingly, but 2 out of 4. So, yeah, if Carson Wentz goes down and needs 4 weeks to rehab from an injury, they can still go 9-3 or 8-4. That can still happen, especially with Taylor Heinicke.
And that's one thing too. Also, you don't know what's going to happen with injuries during a season, because some teams can get lucky and go the whole year without many major injuries, and then some teams can just get hammered the whole year with key injuries too. So that's another factor you can't account for in an NFL season, is the injuries.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, nobody expected Ryan Fitzpatrick to get injured in game 1, let alone in the first, I think, quarter or 2 of the game. So, yes, you never know. You just never know with injuries or anything that can happen right now.
Definitely.
Just the way it goes.
Okay, I'm going to ask you the next question. Quick thoughts on Super Bowl 56, Rams winning their 2nd Super Bowl. Will they repeat next year? And do you think the Cincinnati Bengals will get back to the Super Bowl, or do you think they'll come back to earth a little bit next year?
So my thoughts on Super Bowl 56, it was very entertaining. I'm not sure if you saw, but I posted on Twitter that look between both sides there were missed calls. But that missed call on the push on Jalen Ramsey was a big one. Because that is what sparked Cincinnati to even come back in that game. Because we all know Cincinnati for some reason cannot have a lead in the playoffs in the first half, but they tend to come back in the second half. So I always reserved and said, okay, they'll probably come back in the second half, but what will the Rams do? My thoughts on the Rams winning, um, I picked them to win because I wanted to see Matthew Stafford win the Super Bowl. The guy was in Detroit. He was never going to get one there. He just wasn't.
No.
That kind of reminds me of like, okay, when he did go to LA, like people thought that Matthew Stafford was not some elite quarterback, right? People said Matthew Stafford was an above average quarterback, right? But nobody put him on this elite status. Nobody put him in top tier one. Nobody really even, I think, put him in tier two. Okay. People, I think, was putting him in tier three, which is like the second to last. Yeah. Well, and that's why I say the same thing about Carson Wentz. Like, he's not some elite quarterback, but if you do the same thing the Rams did with Matthew Stafford, you can be successful. You just got to surround those type of quarterbacks with talent. And that's why I think the Rams had that chance to win that Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford put that team on his back in that final drive. Let's be honest. He definitely put that team on his back. Yeah. And I think that solidifies him as a tier two quarterback now, because you're still going to have to talk about Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and all those other quarterbacks.
Yeah, agree.
But I was happy that the Rams won their second Super Bowl because, quite honestly, I didn't know that they only had one. I had to research during the game, like, how many Super Bowls does the Rams have won? Oh, no, they need this one. Yeah. Because, quite frankly, I'm still shocked that this team's better than Washington that has less Super Bowls than Washington. Like, I cannot believe this at all. But when I look at the history of Washington, they were that fearless team that people didn't want to play, and that's why they got 3. So it's kind of time to get our 4th so we can stop having teams catch up to us. But and the Bengals, I said this after the Super Bowl, that was the opportunity to win one. They're going to come back down to earth. They're not going to go back to the Super Bowl next year because AFC teams are already trying to get better than them.
Buffalo, Kansas City.
Yeah, I tried to tell these Bengals fans who were upset and honestly pissed poorly came at me when I said it. And I'm like, but here's the thing. You guys are going to come back down to earth. You're not going to have these seasons where you continue to run all the way to the Super Bowl like Tom Brady. Now, don't get me wrong. Joe Burrow is good. He's a great quarterback. Don't get me wrong. He is a once-in-a-lifetime quarterback that every team wish they could pick. If you can clone Joe Burrow for every year in the draft, teams will take him. Teams will take him, make trades to go get him. It will happen. But the Bengals, I hate to tell your fan base, when it comes to going to championship games, teams show up in free agency and draft to beat teams like you. It's just the way it goes. And you may win 11 games. You may win 12 games, but you're not going to run to the Super Bowl. There's teams out there with great offense and defense. And let's be quite frankly, that offensive line for Cincinnati is terrible. I don't know how Joe Burrow held up in the playoffs with that. But they're terrible.
He got
Washington had a better offense. Washington's offensive line could have been better for Joe Burrow in that Super Bowl. Yeah. That's how bad that offensive line is.
I think in one game he got sacked 7 times. In another game he got sacked 9 times. He got sacked 16 times in 2 games. And then the Raiders, I'm not sure how many times they sacked him. So I'm guessing he got sacked 20 times in the postseason. I'm guessing.
Oh, alone in that game against the Rams, I know that Aaron Donald, I think, got to him twice, if I'm not mistaken. He definitely got to him on that final drive where he caused the strip sack or fumble. But it's like they need to shore up that. They need to, if they're going to go back to the Super Bowl, they definitely need to improve on the offensive line. And that's not going to happen in 1 year. They're going to have to take a couple of picks in the next couple of years and then free agency looks. Because as we just said, there's teams going after players in free agency. I mean, there's even reports from what I saw tonight that the Browns are trying to get Amari Cooper. Wow. So people are out there, and that's another thing I want to tell people. Quarterbacks are asking, for 28, 30. These receivers are now costing 20 to 25 million. It costs to be talented now. So
Absolutely.
you're going to have to pay for these receivers. You're going to have to pay for these quarterbacks, and you're going to even have to pay at the minimum $15 million for a running back. It's costly right now to win.
And Cincinnati's always had the reputation of not wanting to pay the big bucks.
Exactly. So we'll see how this works when Joe Burrow comes down to his final year on his rookie deal, and when he's commanding $35 million, because he's going to command what Dak got.
Absolutely. So we'll see what has happened, but I still think the AFC is a stronger conference. But hey, I was going to say this with Stafford in Detroit. He only had one weapon in Megatron. With the Rams, look at the weapons he had. They surrounded him, like you said, Edward. I agree with you. They gave him the pieces to win. The Lions never did. All he had was Megatron, really, and that's it. So you know what? Maybe with Washington, if they can get him enough pieces to surround him, Wentz could possibly. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But he could eventually end up doing what Stafford did. If Washington,
you never know. You just got to surround him with talent, and because Stafford's not young himself.
No,
you know what I'm saying. But he had the weapon. So, and Carson Wentz is more of a scrambler than Stafford is too, though.
Definitely. And I was going to say, and this leads to my next question, but it's a little up. I got to update the question. Thoughts of Major League Baseball, thoughts of MLB and returning, and who do you blame for this latest work stoppage? Are you all blaming the players? Are you blaming the owners, or both sides?
So my thoughts on MLB, first and foremost, I thought it was going to break the record of, believe it or not, I think it was basketball. They had the longest work stoppage ever. I think it definitely went past the century mark. I think it was like 125 games or 130 games or 130 days. So that had to be, I think that's equating, and that's me trying to do quick math. I think that equates to what, 4 or 5 months of work stoppage. I'm shocked that baseball was back. I was actually sleeping yesterday evening when all this transpired because I work overnight. So I kind of woke up quickly at one point during the day, saw it on my phone, but I thought it was a dream. Like I honestly thought it was a dream that baseball was back. So then I went back to sleep, woke up, and then I see Twitter blowing up, Facebook blowing up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, baseball is actually back. And so here's the thing for me. I looked at it for both ways, right? Players want their money, owners want their money. My problem here is the owners blamed COVID when it happened, right? They couldn't get money, fans weren't in the stands. But my problem with owners is you make money all different types of ways. Even if there's no fans in the stands, you make money from TV. Fans were allowed to come back during the postseason in some states. By the time we got to the league championship series and the World Series, jam-packed stadiums. Okay, so you didn't lose that much money. I'm sorry, but I have to put the blame on the owners. Rich owners wanting more money is what this came down to. Players wanted more support, should I say. They wanted the luxury tax to even go up because they wanted to be able to surround the team with a little bit more talent and players and be able to sign more players. And honestly, I think the luxury tax has been steady or like not changed in almost 5 to 10 years anyway. So I'm sorry, but I blame the owners because I think the owners kind of got a little cocky in a way and knew that they were the owners and they can hold this out as long as possible and try to make the players, make the players buy in and say, okay, we got to take what we can take so we can have a season. But I think the owners really realized too that the players weren't buying in, and this was probably that time where the players are going to be like, if we don't have a season, we don't have a season. We want what we are asking for, and the owners again went back to the drawing table, saying to themselves, I'm sure, we want more money. We're the owners, we want more money. We lost money during this time. We lost money during that time during COVID, during the last 2 years. We need more money. Let me tell you this, Chris. I was talking to a bunch of my coworkers, like a lot of us that are baseball fans, and here's what I told them. Imagine the games that were canceled, right, that are now back on the schedule. Let's say that because I think opening day was supposed to be like the end of March. They was trying to start it a little bit earlier this time.
Yes.
Because I believe because of the expanded playoffs that they were going to add. Now it starts April 7th, but we're having a full season. Let's say that all of April was gone, right? Just erased. and we didn't have it, but they agreed to this deal, and the season was going to start in May. Can you imagine the owners actually saying in the next CBA work stoppage, oh, well, we didn't have the first 20 games of the season, so we got to find a way to make up money from that. They're always going to find a way to say we need more money because we lost money. Now they get every game. There is no excuse here as to why the next work stoppage stops. They cannot use games. They cannot use COVID because at that point, 5 years from now, we won't even be talking about COVID as heavy as we are now. So that was one point that I brought to my coworkers, and they was like, you know what? We didn't even think about that, but that's true. They're going to try to use this next work stoppage that happens if we even, had a deal. And this funny thing is, this was the day before this deal even came through. And they was like, that's so true. They're going to use the 30 games or 40 games that we don't play as an excuse if there's not a deal in enough time. So that's why I blame the owners, because they always find a reason to blame a work stoppage on it. That has nothing to do with the players. So I'm just happy baseball is back. It's kind of funny. I did not know that I was this close to these to New York teams until I looked up and I found out I'm only an hour and a half from USB Arena. And I was like, wait, I have to go to a game while I'm out here. So I'm attempting to go to that. I think it's actually the final game of the NHL season before postseason starts to USB Arena, because I drove to TD Garden. That wasn't a bad drive. So I figured, well, what the heck? I have to go to this game. So I'm gonna try to make a Mets game too at Citi Field.
Yeah, I've been to 13 Major League ballparks, and I'm hoping to go back to Detroit this year because I'm a Tigers fan, and I would like to go back to Fenway Park, PNC Park in Pittsburgh. I'd like to do basically what I'm telling you, Edward, I'd like to do every Major League Baseball park I can, because I love going to different cities and different parks and seeing what the stadium's like and the atmosphere it's like, and the food, of course, the beer, the hot dogs, the popcorn.
Yeah, I went to Philly about 2 weeks ago to the Flyers-Cats game, even though we lost. But the thing that I did like is where I was, my hotel was across the street from Lincoln Financial Field, Wells Fargo, and I think it's Citizens Park or whatever it is.
Citizens
for the Phillies. So it's like, again, knowing that I'm only 3 hours from that was wonderful. But I went and I experienced, I got the cheesecake, and everything. So now I want to go to New York, experience their food, but I also want to experience USB, I think it's USB Arena because it's new. It's the first year. So I'm doing the same thing you're doing, but on the NHL side right now. I've been to Wells Fargo. I've been to T-Mobile Arena in the West Coast. I've been to where have I been? Oh, I've been to Prudential Center. I've been to TD Garden. I've been to MSG. So as you can see, I've been all around the East Coast because that's where I kind of lived and that's where I'm living now. So then after that, I kind of want to go to South or the Midwest. So I'm actually going to try to go to that Winter Classic next year between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Capitals.
There's one here this Sunday in Hamilton between the Sabres and Leafs. And the game is in Hamilton, which is 40 minutes from Toronto. But the Sabres are the home team playing in Ontario. They're the home team. Does that make sense, the NHL, have an American team come to the Toronto market and become the home team? So, but I was going to say the Winter Classic, I would like to do that too. The only thing is, Edward, the pandemic here is finally over. We're probably 6 months behind you guys for ending it, but the price of gasoline is like almost $7, actually $7 a gallon. I think it's $1.90, around $1.90 a liter right now, which is around $7 a gallon. So for me, that's a factor in doing these sports trips is the distance and how much gas money it's going to cost.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, would you consider flying? Because actually, I guess they're not upping the flight prices because of gasoline right now. Of course, at some point they probably will, because in a report from what I aired this morning is that a lot of experts don't expect the gasoline prices to drop until the end of the year.
Wow.
Which is a long freaking time. I'm pretty sure when I aired that this morning, people were like, this year at the end. I'm like, yeah, but gotta let you know, if I don't tell you, you're going to be like, you didn't tell me. But trust me, gas up here for regular, and this is in the city of Hartford, $4.27. If you use credit card, it's $4.35, and that's a lot for here.
Yeah.
They expect that we're going to be above $5 by the end of March, beginning of April. My birthday's in April. I don't want to be paying $5.
So that means we're gonna be at $8 a gallon if it's gonna keep going up in the States, because you guys generally get gasoline cheaper than us. We seem to
But
get the European type prices here.
I will say this though, gas has been popping like 15, 20 cents a night though, is when it's how it's
Yes.
increasing.
Same
So it's
here,
like
same here.
every night it's
It
going
goes
up
up.
20 cents. So by
Yeah.
the end of the week, you're paying $1 more.
Yeah.
You know, people
Absolutely.
like me are only getting a half a tank now because you're like, I don't have $50 to keep throwing in there because I
Yeah.
need to buy food. I gotta eat.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
and I will. I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, people may say, looking at you now, you're skinny. Okay, but I'm having to eat out a lot because it's costing so much at the grocery store.
sure. Yeah. Everything's going up. Everything's going up
Everything,
here. Yeah,
inflation.
absolutely. Yep, definitely. We'll have to have a show on that the next time. So, next question I wanted to ask you. We're gonna get to hockey now. Thoughts on your 21-22 Washington Capitals, and who are your picks to possibly meet up in the 2022 Stanley Cup Finals? Which Capital players do you think, besides Ovechkin, have played well this year, and some that have maybe underachieved in your opinion?
Okay. So my thoughts on the 2021-2022 Capitals. So we had a lot of injuries at the beginning of the year. It was frustrating to have them, but we had fought through them. Like we were like that top five team the first 2, 3 months in, and then I tell this to fans all the time. For some reason, when January and February hits, that's our low moment. We do so well, we achieve so much in November, December, and parts of January that by the mid-January all the way through February, it's our low. We'll have 20 games we played, win 10. It's not very like us to win half of our games. Maybe even only 8 or 9. I think they said out of 20 games, we only won like 8. That's bad for us because usually we win more than half of those. But now you see that we're picking our game up. The last week, we beat the Carolina Hurricanes, shockingly, 4-0. That was after even playing a close game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we beat Carolina, we beat the Krakens, we beat the Calgary Flames, which shockingly, was a team that had won like 14, 15 out of their last 17 games.
Yes. Yeah, Calgary's red hot right now, and nobody even talks about them.
Yeah, so it was like for the Caps to be the team to throw that ice cold water on them in that game was shocking me. It was shocking to me. I'm sorry, it was. I was like, maybe we'll get a point out of this game, but the Caps played a pretty solid game against a pretty daggone good team.
Yes.
So then they went, of course, okay, so they lose to the Oilers. Okay, the Caps, they flew over. They went to Canada. They won 3 in a row. Then they lost the game. Tonight they play the Vancouver Canucks, who you cannot overlook, but I think, look, they should win that game, right? So you'll say 4 out of their last 5. I think they're catching fire. I think they're healthy now. They got Anthony Mantha back. They got Nicholas Backstrom back. They got TJ Oshie back. The power play is now back up to being at, not overall, but the last, I think, month and a half, they've been doing a lot better. They're at 30%, which is where you're expecting the Caps to be. So that means that their power play is back. That's what they need to be a team to beat in the playoffs, because believe it or not, the Caps are only 4 points, if I'm not mistaken, 4 points, 5 points from second place in the Metro. Right now, the Hurricanes have kind of ran away with the division. So they're only 5 points back of the Rangers, and the Rangers lost last night. So this is why these are 2 big pivotal points tonight, because now, is this the point where the Rangers are starting to fall? Is this the point where the Penguins are starting to fall? Because you have a chance to be that second place team in the Metro and to get back up in the standings. And that's why I say, I'll say this. ESPN commentator said he was going to reserve his comments on the Capitals because they were injured, and he wanted to see how they would play healthy. But that was the one good thing that they said that night in intermission all night long, was that I'm not going to sit here and describe the Capitals as a bad team because they're injured. When they get all the players back, we'll see how they are. Well, right now, Joe Snively, who was a really good, Hershey guy, probably was not going to be on the line for the playoffs, though, is injured. No offense. He doesn't really hamper or damper anything for the Caps. And Hagelin, who was just a PK killer, okay, wasn't doing much on offense. So you really don't hamper a lot there. You just got to find a guy to put on penalty kill. Maybe they find that guy in the trade deadline. So for me right now, I think, look, we're going to get to 40 wins. I had put out a poll saying, will the Capitals even win 5 games this month? Well, I guess I was already wrong there, because they beat Calgary, they beat the Krakens, they beat the Hurricanes. They're already at 3. They could be at 4 tonight. We're not even halfway through March yet. So look, if the Capitals can get 10 wins, maybe even 8 wins this month, I think they're okay. Because believe it or not, for some reason, I think they had to move games this year. That's why we have a full April slate of hockey games for the first time in a long time. So they got April to even get 10, 15 points. I just want to see if they're going to crack that century mark with points. But we're so far out from that they have even like a week where they have like 3 games they play. So who is my Stanley Cup Finals pick?
As of now, yeah. I'm gonna put you on the spot. As of now, things can change too in a hurry.
Oh yeah, definitely. Florida's looking good, but my thing with Florida is they get into the playoffs, and then when they got to play that one team 4 times, they seem to not be able to win those series. They did it last year. Dang, I'm trying to think. I mean, there's a lot of teams in the NHL right now that can win anything. I mean, we just spoke about the Capitals getting hot again. Let's not forget Ovi can beat the record tonight. Backstrom is back to playing his game. Oshie's back to his spot. I mean, you got the Florida Panthers who are red hot. They go down 3 goals and they come back and win games. If there's another team I had to look at, and let me look at the standings real quick, because like I said, it's just so many teams out there. I think this year for hockey is a really deep year when I look at it. If I had to pick somebody else, here's another pick. Colorado Avalanche. They're playing pretty well. They're a Stanley Cup favorite.
Yeah.
Another team I'm shocked that the Caps even beat. Like, I couldn't believe we beat them. Like, it's just like these good teams the Caps play up to their par against, and the bad teams they play down to.
Play down. It's consistency, and that's frustrating as hell. I was going to say right now, my pick out of the East, I'm still going to go with Tampa Bay because they are the champs. Until you beat the champs, Tampa Bay and Colorado, but I'm not counting out Calgary. So right now, Colorado / Calgary out of the West, and in the East, Tampa Bay. But not to say Tampa Bay can't be upset. I'm just still going with Tampa Bay until somebody beats them in the playoffs.
Right. Yeah. The reason I'm not going with Tampa is because I just think at some point in time when you keep getting rid of players after Stanley Cups, you just at some point you falter there. And don't get me wrong, they're 37-14-6 with 80 points, but that doesn't mean that they can't lose in the playoffs because they've been this good before and still have lost in the past.
Yes.
I think first and foremost, I think the Stanley Cup that they won that first time, the pandemic helped. The second go around, they were still much better. I don't know. From the West, I think a team that people do have to kind of fear, besides Calgary and the Colorado Avalanche, are the Kings. Some way, somehow, the Kings have stuck in this thing. And they've done enough to go 32-19-8 with 72 points. They played a heck of a game even against the Boston Bruins. So that's why I say it's so up in the air right now that anybody can win. And who has underperformed for me personally?
Yeah,
I know Backstrom was hurt. I think what I'm gonna have to say is right now, John Carlson. That man has become a liability on the ice at times, and it is frustrating. It's like getting hit by somebody on the road that only has liability on their car, and they can't cover you or someone who doesn't have insurance, should I say, and they hit you and they're on the road. That is what John Carlson does to me sometimes. It's like, what are you thinking? Why don't you even have 20 goals as a defenseman? Like, you're good. You're better than what you're showing. You are. I mean, Martin Ferravari has played better than him. Nick Jensen has played better than him. So Justin Schultz has played better than him. I could go up and down the list. And we paid that man all that money. That's what frustrates it with me. So that's my underperforming player there.
Okay, and yeah, like I said, I pay more attention to the Red Wings and stuff like that. But that's great about the Capitals. I was gonna say we'll see what happens, but you're right about the NHL. Even if Tampa Bay has won the last 2 cups, they're not guaranteed to win a 3rd cup or even get out of the first round. But I'll tell you this: the Leafs are not going to get out of the first round. Their goaltending is garbage. They're soft. They can score a lot of goals. Don't get me wrong. The Leafs got a lot of firepower, a lot of talented players, but their defense is soft and their goaltending is probably got the worst save percentage in the National Hockey League right now.
Look, I totally agree with you. I know the Capitals lost that night, and somebody had told me on Twitter when I said you guys aren't even gonna make it out of the first round. I was like, let me just enjoy this. I'm like, no, you need to bring yourself down to earth. You're gonna make the playoffs, but you're not even gonna get out of the first round. When I saw the goalie that they put in net against us that night, I was very shocked that we didn't put 6 goals in. But I agree with you. For some reason, the fact that they let the Caps all the way back in that game shows me how soft they are. You should not have let us back in that game when you were dominating that way. And the fact that you did shows me that, nope, you're not going far. You're not winning a Stanley Cup. It's been 50 plus years. Yeah, the Caps took 40 years. But at the end of the day, you're not going there. You're not getting out of the first. You'll be lucky if you get out of the first. The Maple Leafs always go to game 7, and that's where they choke. Just like the Caps would do. Go to game 7 and choke.
By the way, the Leafs haven't won a cup since '67. They haven't been to the cup since '67, though they're NHL records for longest Stanley Cup drought. And the Maple Leafs haven't won a playoff series since April 2004. 18 years ago against Ottawa, and their fans are still arrogant. And I'm like, how can you guys be arrogant when you've done nothing the last 53, 54 years? Like, until they win a championship, the fans and the Leafs should just, it's got nothing to do with the players. I like some of their players. It's the fans and the Toronto media, and it's like they act like the Maple Leafs or the New York Yankees of the NHL. They're not.
Oh, they're definitely not. Here's the thing about Maple Leafs fans, something I learned. They don't even remember the last series they played the Capitals, when the Capitals beat them in overtime and won that game. And I try to do the same thing you did. Give them years, give them the time frame. And all they remember is, well, we got more Stanley Cups than the Capitals.
Yeah.
Okay, let me explain something to you. If you're so worried about when you won your Stanley Cups, which was back in the 60s, 50s and all that, which none of y'all was alive for.
Original 60s.
And you need to say it again.
And that was also in the original 6 era.
Right, exactly. And that's what I try to tell them, like, and then I even tell them, well, at least the Capitals won the playoff series, multiple of them. Sure, they got knocked out by the Rangers in game 7. Sure, they get knocked out by the Penguins all the time until 2018. But they were a guaranteed team to almost make it to the second round. You guys don't even win a round. You don't even breathe the second round. You haven't even breathed the Stanley Cup since 67. Let's not even get on that most of y'all don't even remember the year 67. So until you experience something, I don't even want to talk to any Toronto fans. The only thing they experienced was an NBA championship, and that was their first one.
Yep. And by the way, the Leafs haven't been in the Eastern Conference Championship since 2002. 20 years ago against the Carolina Hurricanes. And again, they lost in game 6 at home.
See?
So I remember all this stuff because, like I said, I'm not a Leaf fan, never have. Same with Dallas Cowboys. A lot of those franchises like Dallas and the Leafs and the Lakers. I know the Lakers have won a lot of championships. They live in the past. And like I said, I love seeing the Leafs lose, the Lakers lose, the Dallas Cowboys lose, because I find some of their fan bases can be really arrogant, in my opinion.
Oh, and let me tell you, when those teams lose, I love the reactions that I find on Twitter. I love them. Like, I took a picture of that one lady that was just like on her phone like this when when Dax slid on that when he slid on that play, instead of just like throwing it out of bounds or something, or giving his team another chance, and sat the ball there, and the clock ran down, and people didn't know the rule that the official has to touch the ball, place the ball officially. And people were going off. Like, that's bogus. They don't do it all the time. I'm like, it's a rule. The official followed the rule. Because your team got caught up in the rule, now you're against it? Nah, man. If that was any other team and your team won, you wouldn't be against the rule. So again, like you said, they live in the past, you know? Dallas fans fail to realize the last time they won the Super Bowl was the same decade Washington won the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So they can talk all of that success now, but when your success doesn't equal Super Bowl, I don't care anymore. I'm going to go back on Washington here for a second. I think Carson Wentz will beat Dallas this year. I hope
you're right.
If we surround Carson Wentz with talent, Diggs is going to get eaten up. He got eaten up in the playoffs.
Yep.
He got eaten up in the playoffs. He got hurt in the playoffs. That dude is not a shutdown corner. He got lucky with some of those picks that were tipped and came his way.
Yep,
Some of them
definitely.
is IQ. You jumped the route, okay, cool. But not all 12 of those little picks he had was all
Yep.
his. When a ball is tipped, my 4-year-old cousin, nephew can catch that.
Yep, definitely. Hey, do you have time for one more question, Edward? Because it's almost
Yeah.
8 o'clock. One more question. I had to cover this sport too. What are your thoughts on the 21-22 Washington Wizards, and what does the franchise need to do to get back to respectability in the future, in your opinion?
So I'm very upset because they started like 10-3 and then they faltered. But I think that I do like Kyle Kuzma. I do like that they got Kristaps Porzingis. I think that as long as he can stay healthy, just like we were talking about with Carson Wentz staying healthy, I think as long as Kristaps Porzingis stays healthy, now with Bill coming back, they will have a formidable starting lineup. I think what the Wizards need to do is get out of this mindset, and this is both for the GM and the owner. Get out of this mindset of not wanting to spend money. You got to spend money to get to the respectability of being a formidable team in the league. So if that means, and I'm not saying they're going to do this, but if that means spending 175 or $200 million and getting a guy like, I'm not saying getting this exact person, but getting a guy like Kevin Durant or LeBron James, do it. There's no other way you're going to become a respectable team if you don't take those respectable chances. And you have to pay the respectable price. So that's what I think the Wizards need to do. They have not done that. I wasn't mad that they traded John Wall because John Wall doesn't play enough. John Wall can miss 20, 30 games this season, and you're paying this guy $200 million. Sorry, no. 40 million, 50 million a year just to sit on the bench? I can sit on the bench for all of that then. So I think that's what the Wizards really just need to do. They just really need to go out there and find two guys next year in free agency that are big enough. And if they wind up with a top 5 draft pick, because the Wizards haven't winded up with that since Bradley Beal and John Wall, then if they wind up with a top 5, then you need to go find the perfect guy there too. So I think those are the 3 things they need to do. Find 2 guys in the free agency that are big names, bring them here, take a chance, and go get that guy in the draft.
Definitely. And I'm going to wrap this up because I know you got to get going at 8 o'clock. NBA Finals prediction: can the Bucks repeat? And is there any dark horse teams to look out for?
Let's see. Out of the West, I think the Suns can get back to the finals. They're the number 1 team. I think even if the Lakers snuck in, they would upset them again. Call it an upset because you got LeBron and AD out there if AD plays, but I think the Suns can win. So I think they can get to the finals again. I think the Bucks. I think the Bucks will get there. I don't think they'll win this time. I think the Suns will find a way to beat them. So I do not think that they will repeat. Any dark horse? I think a dark horse to get there from the East. See, if Brooklyn gets healthy and starts winning again the way that they should, they could be a dark horse as a low seed. Out of the West. See, I like the Jazz, but then the Jazz always have this other soft part to their game where they don't do everything they should to get there. I guess right now I don't see another dark horse from the West, but if I had to pick one, I guess I can go with the Jazz because I don't have the standings in front of me. But right now, I think the Suns and Bucks will probably match up again, like they'll meet again.
Yeah, for me, I'm not sold on Chicago. They're 0-14 against elite teams, and the Philadelphia Sixers, they have the talent, but James Harden, I'm not a big fan of James Harden. I know they had to get rid of Ben Simmons, but I just there's something about the Sixers I don't like. You're right, Brooklyn, even though they're 500 or struggling, if Kevin Durant can get healthy and Kyrie Irving can stay healthy or get productive. I think the East is up for grabs. The West, I do agree with you, Edward, on Phoenix, unless they get some major injuries or something like that. I do agree with you, Phoenix out of the West, but the East, I think it's wide open in the East.
I can see why you say that. I just think, like you said about hockey, until the defending champs are no longer the defending champs no more, they always have a chance.
Definitely. So, anyways, Edward, it's almost 8 o'clock, so I'm going to let you go. But I was going to say, I hope I can have you on again, and we'll talk even more sports. And hopefully we'll talk about the Leafs being put out in the first round again.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you having me on. Anytime, you know where to find me and how to reach out to me. And if you know anybody else that's even looking for somebody to be on a podcast like me, tell them you can give them my information, my Twitter handle, and all that stuff, and let them and just have them reach out to me.
Will do. And where can my audience again find you on social media?
So on Twitter, you can find me and you can search my name at Edward_Ford_TV. And if you go to Facebook, you can just search my name, Edward Ford. I'll pop up, and you would definitely be able to find me because if you read the profile, it would say that I work as a news producer at Fox 61.
Okay. Oh, I was going to say, words that hour went by quick, but I really want to say thank you so much for coming on my Live with CDP podcast. And like I said, we'll have to have you back on again, and we'll talk more sports as usual.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You have a wonderful day.
You too, Edward. Thanks a lot. Good night.
All right. Good night.
Good night. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed my podcast tonight with Edward Ford from Fox 61 News in Hartford. He's a news producer there, and he's a huge sports fan as well. And you can also check him out on fox61.com, their website. And you can also check out Edward on Twitter at EdwardFord_TV. And like I said, he loves sports and he loves his Washington sports teams as well. So, let's see, guys. I'm just going to talk a little other news before I call it a show. I just want to say thank you to everybody watching us live on YouTube. Please subscribe if you haven't. Facebook and Twitter at Christy Pame. And also, just before I get to the basketball stuff, I'm just going to also let you guys know Live with CDP podcast. The audio version will be downloaded to Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, and LinkedIn. If you guys like to subscribe to my audio platforms, that would be great as well. I'm trying to build my audience up. Also, again, like I said, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, type in my name, Chris Pame. You'll see Live with CDP on YouTube. If you can hit subscribe button, I'm trying to get my subscribers up to 100, and then from there as well. So, also, guys, you can also follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP. That's at Live with CDP on TikTok. I post a lot of video content there as well. And also, guys, you can Live with CDP merchandise. Podcast shirts are 15, coffee mugs 15, and my podcast hats are 18 if you're interested as well. And also, guys, just to let you know, next Live with CDP podcast, Tuesday, March 15th at 5 o'clock Eastern. My guest is Christera Napier, a female pro wrestler from Montreal, Quebec. She's going to be wrestling Addie Starr on Saturday, March 19th at 7 o'clock in Cambridge, Ontario for Cross Body Pro Wrestling Academy, and I will be going to that card in Cambridge, and I'm looking forward to speaking to Christera Napier about her pro wrestling career and how she started out and who influenced her in the wrestling industry as well. So I hope you guys, if you like wrestling, I hope you guys can tune in this Tuesday, March 15th at 5 o'clock. Christera Napier, female pro wrestler from Montreal, Quebec, will be on as well. Looking forward to that. And also, guys, tonight, the Guelph Storm are back on the road this weekend. Right now with games tonight currently going on at Sarnia and Saturday night at Flint. The Storm have lost 4 in a row after their last loss 5-3 to the Attack last Monday night in Owen Sound as well. And also, guys, the National Basketball League of Canada tonight has a game on Friday, March 11th at 7 o'clock. Sudbury 5 against the Kitchener-Waterloo Titans at 7 o'clock. I'll be probably doing a blog at that game as well. You guys can also watch the game on NBLC TV as well. You have to subscribe to it. I believe it's $39.95 for the season, but you can get every game played in that league on that online subscription, and they do a really good job with that as well. And also, just to let you know, the standings right now in the NBL. London is 5-0, Kitchener is 3-3, Sudbury's 2-3, and Windsor Express is 1-2. The record against the basketball league out of the TBL out of the US is currently 6-3. So tonight you got Kitchener and Sudbury going on right now at the Odd in Kitchener, and I look forward to doing their Zoom press call and asking coaches and players some questions after the game as well. And yeah, I put that on there as well. And also, guys, you can check out their website. NBLcanada.ca. Again, they're celebrating their 10th season, and they do have a 24-game regular season and then the playoffs as well. And also, guys, 2022 Buffalo Bisons. I had Pat Malacaro, the radio guy, on the other day. Home opener, regular season opener is this Tuesday, April 5th at 1:05 first pitch against those Iowa Cubs at Saline Field. Check out buffalobisons.com. And their tickets are affordable, and it's AAA baseball. It's great. Saline Field is about 5-6 minutes from the Peace Bridge. It's on the 190 downtown Buffalo, and then you get off at exit 6, and there's plenty of parking right down by Saline Field as well. And also, guys, some other football news. Philadelphia Eagles and center Jason Kelsey have agreed to a new $14 million contract. Source confirmed today, making him the highest paid center in the league right now. Kelsey, who has been mulling retirement the last 2 seasons, announced on Thursday that he would be back for another season. This will be his 12th season in the NFL, 12th with the Eagles. As far as I'm concerned, he should be on the Eagles Wall of Fame when he retires. And I do think Jason Kelsey should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame as well. One of the greatest centers in Eagles history and NFL history, in my opinion. So I like that move for the Eagles. He is the heart and the soul of the Eagles, just like Brian Dawkins was when he played as well. And some other football news, guys. Joe Buck is expected to leave Fox Sports for ESPN, where he will be reportedly become the new voice of Monday Night Football, along with Troy Aikman. So it looks like it's going to be Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on Monday Night Football. Buck has been with Fox Sports since 1994, and he's called 6 Super Bowls and many of World Series as well. Buck does have 1 year left on his contract with Fox for $11 million, but Fox has granted Buck permission to talk to ESPN. So deals expected to be announced shortly. So we'll see what happens with Erin Andrews, the sideline reporter who worked many years with Joe and Troy on Fox. We'll see if she joins them on ESPN as well. We'll still see what happens with Al Michaels. He's currently a free agent. Obviously, he won't be going to ESPN for Monday Night Football. I'm not sure if he's going to stay at NBC, because I think Mike Tirico is taking over the #1 spot at Sunday Night Football with Chris Collinsworth. So I'm guessing Al Michaels is either going to retire, which I don't think he's ready to do yet, or he's going to Thursday Night Football, Amazon Prime. So we'll see what happens there, guys. And also, just to let you know, Major League Baseball yesterday and the Players Association reached an agreement on a new CBA on Thursday, paving the way for the 2022 season. 162 game schedule starts April 7th. And training camp, I believe, will start next Friday in Florida, March 17th. So we'll see what happens, but I'm looking forward to Major League Baseball being back. I'm going to hopefully go to a couple of Bisons games in Buffalo this year, and go to a couple of Tigers games in Detroit. Haven't been to a AAA game or a Major League Baseball game since 2019. So we're talking 3 years due to the pandemic as well. So what's your thoughts on Major League Baseball coming back? I'm definitely happy, but I have to admit I was shocked. I thought it was going to be July when they would come back at an 82 game schedule as well. So anyways, guys, I think that's pretty well it. Oh, before I go, guys, just to let you know, check out wordpress.com. That's wordpress.com/home/live with CDP podcast. .wordpress.com. I've done 13 blogs on there so far, and I'll probably be doing another blog this weekend as well. I've decided to take up blogging as another skill, so I've been doing some on the Pistons, the Red Wings, my favorite sports teams. I've done some blogs on the NBL of Canada as well, so check them out as well. You can also check my blogs out on my LinkedIn page as well. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, it's Chris Pame. Just connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll accept your like there as well. So, and let's see, guys. I think that's pretty well it for tonight. I just want to say again, thank you to Edward Ford for coming on my podcast for a second time. This is season 3, episode 15 tonight. Overall 126 podcasts. So I just want to say thank you to all my guests that have come on the last 2 years, and everybody that watches this live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and also on my audio platforms as well. So, and also, guys, before I wrap it up, you guys can also follow me on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and also if you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel under Chris Pame. And again, I'm on TikTok under Alive with CDP there as well. And also, you can follow me on LinkedIn, like I mentioned. And also, you guys can email me at cpame19@gmail.com. So, and I guess that's it. Like I said, guys, I'm going to be working on my next shows for next weekend. I've got 3 podcasts next week. Looking forward to it. But Tuesday night, 5 o'clock, Christera Napier, pro wrestler from Montreal, Quebec, will come on, and we're going to talk about the wrestling industry and how she got into it. And I'm looking forward to speaking to her as well. So I hope everybody has a great night, a great weekend, and we'll see you guys Tuesday, March 15th at 5 o'clock for season 3, episode 16 of Live with CDP podcast. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening to Live with CDP podcast. Have a great night, guys. And again, Edward Ford, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I enjoyed speaking with him.